Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you here today to the Jackson County Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, June 20th of 2023. And Don Franker, Nan Flagel, myself, Mike Steinis are your county supervisors. Lisa is our Jackson County auditor. Bjorn is here with the IT department. Luann, our executive assistant, is here in the background. And first on our agenda today is Mr. Todd Keeney, our Jackson County engineer. Good morning.
Good morning. So we did that upgrade for the LP gas and the fuel bids. That's all been tabulated here. These are just so this is gas and diesel. No press here today?
I don't know where she's zooming. No, she's not zooming.
So if you recall the two bidders for that, we have the contracts ready to sign, so I just need a motion to award to the low bidder for River Valley.
You're talking just the LP right now, right? Is that correct?
No, gas and diesel.
Okay.
They were a little bit on pretty much everything with it.
No,
Yeah,
were they?
gas and diesel and one or blend. And the additive, yeah,
Makes a motion when we go with Rock River Valley, value for gas, diesel.
how about just.
River Valley and-
River Valley Energy.
I'll second that.
A motion and second to approve the awarding of the gasoline diesel fuel LP bids to River Valley Energy of Bellevue. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.
There wasn't anything.
Take that out there.
And a little bit for LP.
Yep, so for LP. Three bidders on this. So AgVantage FS and Low Group Oil out of Dubuque, East Hour LP low bid was AgVantage. Need a motion to award to the low quote submitted.
Motion to approve. Manager FS, nickel bid 15.
Second that.
Motion and second to approve the contract for LP to Ag Advantage FS /Tipton. As presented, all those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.
Okay, so that's it for items on the agenda. Just a quick update on some work. The paving job, all the asphalt is done. They pulled out, I think Thursday, Friday of last week. They're coming back today and do the shouldering stone. I would guess they would finish this week. Cedar Falls patching called, said that they're supposed to be here either today or tomorrow, so it's gonna be more like Wednesday of next week, which is fine. Kind of helps us out because we don't have overlap of the jobs, so that's an update there. We're getting quite a few dust complaints this morning. We probably got a half dozen already. We're hauling on Leisure Lake Road for the resurfacing work. That's supposed to be, I talked to Rick this morning early, they're supposed to be done this morning.
Is that the retrieving stuff?
Yeah, part of the issue is, and I'll only talk to guys about this, but they had pulled some material on the road, but didn't get it covered right away, so they left it like from yesterday, and it's as dry as it is, it just turns to like talcum, it's like powder. So anytime traffic's on something like that, the dust is obviously exacerbated. So what I'll talk to them about is if we pull something on the road, we at least need to get it some rock tailgated down the middle and get it covered up so we're not driving on the powder. But I mean, it is what it is. As dry as it is, I think last week, Thursday or Friday for sure, I talked to the guys and they stopped pulling material into the road because it was just so dusty. And we just tried to cover up, what we had done, so. If it continues to get this dry, we probably will have to make the decision to stop doing the retrieving. Because it is so dry. And kind of wait till we get some rain, and if we have to keep working later in October or November, I mean, it is what it is, so.
No, I would agree. I mean, we would know it's extremely dry and I had a local individual call. He must have been traveling Leisure Lake Road. He was concerned about the material that was being brought in. And I said, well, a lot of it's rock, you know, it looks like mud and dirt, but he says he thought there were too much dirt in it, it wouldn't pack and you're gonna have soft spots. And I said, well, you guys have been doing it for a long time. And I said, whatever we pull in, it's got a mixture of, you know.
Yeah, people would be surprised how much rock is really there.
Yeah.
I mean, there is dirt, obviously, but there's still quite a bit of rock there, so. And the bottom line is, if you're building back, you know, 5 or 6 inches of crown in the road, we can't afford to do that with rock only,
Right.
right? And if we got high shoulders, we're doing 2 things, we're building the crown back in inexpensively. And we're creating drainage from the edge of the road into the ditch, so. You really, you know, once the road, this cross section gets reestablished, we won't have to be this aggressive the next time we do these roads. It'll be less of a disturbance of the driving surface, so. So we were just talking about the resolution for the secondary road assessment district. So. I have to put in there a description of the boundary area. And then we have to have the assessment spelled out in the resolution. And I think we could probably do the interest rate and all that on one if we wanted to. I don't have the resolution ready yet. We have to get we didn't really have a description other than the lots on the report. Now we have to have like you know, it's like almost like not meets and bounds, but something similar. So Jaden's working on that. I'm not here next Tuesday, I'll be gone. So. I would prefer to be here that day, but if we get it prepared, you want to get it acted on, you can act on it without me being here, but. My question is, are you gonna meet the week of 4th of July?
June
30th.
30th.
Friday.
Friday, 10 o'clock.
So the July 3rd meeting has been canceled.
JC. Okay. I will shoot for that day. Is that all right for the resolution? Or I mean, there's no. I don't know if you guys are in a big hurry to get that passed, but. So I'll shoot for that day, and then once that resolution's passed, then what I'll do is, I'll start the process to amend our 5-year program. And I probably will amend the budget at the same time, because this will be new construction under 020 operation code. And then we'll put this PCC paving as part of 367 operation code, the new project, put it on the program and then budget for it. When I say budget for it, I mean, we'll be paying for it out of our carryover balance. But basically the budget amendment allows us the expense of that, you know. It's not like don't get worried, you're not gonna transfer me any more funds, we're just gonna use the contingency fund and then authorize the additional expense.
Okay, that's fine with me. I think that's reasonable.
And then we got some things. Gonna go over the job apps for the open motor grader position today, and then review the plans. Mike and Jade and I for the 184th bridge project, so we got those check plans to look at, so.
Did Jaden have a chance to go down to the senior center? I asked Ken last Friday or so. I talked to him yesterday a little bit. He was gonna look, they're requesting to put a couple handicap stalls in front of the building because they're way off on the east side now and it doesn't make sense to them, and he was gonna check the percentage of grade, so they were.
ADA complaint.
Yeah.
He didn't say anything to me, but I'll ask him. I can have him stop in, or if you wanna stop in after the meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll touch base.
I don't think of anything else.
I know they were working on 150 or 250 today, so that was just putting rock and stuff along the edges. Did you travel the road?
The shoulder, I mean?
No, the simple thing, simple.
Oh, yeah. Pretty smooth, I'd say. There's a difference when the contractor uses a pickup machine versus not using one, you know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Because anytime the paver starts and stops, you end up with just a little bit of a.
Yeah.
Undulation.
Well, if it stops, you only get that vibration or whatever it may be, but.
Well, every time it stops and it has to move again, it just has a slight float in it as it moves.
I went through and kind of watched it a little bit one day when they were feeding that thing. It was pretty interesting, yeah.
Did you have your safety vest on?
Actually, I did have a bright green shirt on. I didn't stop. I was-
Perfect, all right. Well, that's all I have, so
Okay,
anything else?
not that I can think of.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
Are there any visitors or citizens that would like to address the board today? Seeing none, I'll move on to Becky Chapin, our Human Resource Administrator. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
How's everybody?
Good.
I just have one thing today. We wrapped up the application period for the CVSO confidential secretary over at Penrose Annex. Brianna and I interviewed 5 of the 10 candidates, and we did make an offer last week and she did accept it. Her name is Lucille Johnson. The VA commission met last week and gave the blessing for the hire. I would like formal approval today to offer her a starting wage of $19.60 per hour. We had advertised a range of $18 to $20.60. With an extra $1 on top of that, once the position becomes accredited, we feel due to her qualifications and she will slide right into the position. She can do every aspect of it minus the piece of being accredited at this point. So we would like to offer her the $19.60 per hour with a 50% increase on her 90-day probation and a 50% increase upon her 6 month.
50%.
50 cents, 50 cents. We're gonna double her salary in 6 months. So $19.60 per hour to start with a 50-cent increase upon 90-day probation and a 50% increase upon successful 6 months.
50 cents.
Did I say percent again?
Yeah.
And then $1 when the position is accredited, but we'll come back when that happens. It should be August, and if not, it wouldn't be until next spring. So the motion I would ask for is to approve $19.60 per hour for Lucille Johnson with a 50-cent increase upon completion of 90-day probation and 50-cent increase upon successful 6 month review, including authorizing the county auditor to issue biweekly paychecks for the same.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to approve the hiring and the pay scale as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
And then the plan right now is to have her start on July 10th. Brianna will be out of the office the week of the 3rd, and we figured that would be a good transition after that.
Sounds like a good hire.
Yep,
Qualified.
she's a good hire. Yep, we'll be glad to have her, so. That's all I got.
All right,
All right,
beautiful.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, moving right along, Lisa.
This morning, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the June 13th, 2023 board proceedings as written by Auditor Smith and authorize publication in the official newspaper.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the June 13th, 2023 board proceedings as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Motion needed to approve and authorize the auditor's office to issue warrants in the publication of the claims listing in the amount of $802,459.56.
This is our last claim period, is that correct?
It should be, yeah.
Is there possible yet handwritten?
We're trying not to. This really should be our last claims
Year
period
end.
unless something really odd comes up.
Emergency.
But at this point, we are not anticipating any more claims this fiscal year.
So, I mean, it looks a little outstanding, but it's end of the year and you're catching up with the rest of the year.
There's a couple of squad cars in this.
There is.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the warrants as presented. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Motion needed to accept, place on file the Veterans Affairs Commission meeting minutes for the May 10th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to approve the Veterans Affairs Commission meeting minutes as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Last week, I did deliver the 2 checks to ECIA for the revolving loan, and I also delivered the check to the fairgrounds. And I had Mark Miller, the president of the Jackson County Fair Association, sign this agreement. And I gave a copy, for you to review, but I also need a motion needed to approve and authorize the chair's signature on the Fairgrounds Campground Electrical Improvement Project Agreement for $20,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the chair's signature on the Fairground Campground Electrical Improvement Project as presented for $20,000. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carried.
Motion needed to approve resolution number 963-06-20-2023, certifying delinquent Leisure Lake sewer assessments to the county treasurer for property tax collection in the amount of $4,395.20.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve resolution 963-06-20-2023 as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
And because it says the end of the year, as you said, Mike, we have to look at departments and functions and different things when it comes to budgets. So I need a motion to approve resolution 964-06-20-2023 for an appropriations transfer from conservation to the weed commissioner for $52 effective June 20th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve resolution 964-06-20-2023 as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Motion needed to approve setting a public hearing date for a fiscal year budget amendment on June 30th, 2023 at 10 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve set a public hearing date for fiscal year budget amendment on June 30th of 23 at 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
That's all that I have for the board today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And Luann, are you prepared?
Yeah.
We'll see.
You guys need to bring me up this morning, I'm like Becky, oh dear. I've had those mornings.
We're going 50% around line.
Okay, we'll start with the calendar. After our board meeting this morning at 10 o'clock, we will have a work session on the geo permits software with the department heads. And at 10:30, we'll have a work session on Crab Cemetery with the Cemetery Commission. At 2 o'clock is a Mississippi Valley Workforce CEO meeting by Zoom for Don. And at 5 o'clock tonight is a Conservation Board meeting in Sebula. For any of you that want to go, Nin has been going to those. Thursday, June 22nd at 9 a.m. is an RPA meeting, either in Dubuque or by Zoom for Don and Nin. And at noon that day, I tentatively have down a Bellevue Leadership Committee meeting, but I don't have confirmation of that yet for you, Mike. Monday, June 26th at 1 a.m. Is Waste Authority meeting for Mike.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that's here or if it's out of facility.
1 a.m. seems early.
What's that?
1 a.m. seems early.
PM. Yeah, that could be right.
Good catch. It is printed, right?
I know this.
Might be around, yeah.
Too much smoke in the air. Everybody's getting affected here.
Well, I think
so.
Jennifer might have showed yesterday. All of a sudden I had a message on my phone. I didn't quite catch it, but I said, I think it's next week.
Okay, also on Monday at 4 p.m. is Early Childhood Iowa Council meeting in DeWitt, or Nin as the alternate. And at 6 p.m. Monday night is the Board of Adjustment meeting in the community room, and I think she's doing that by Zoom these days as well, for any of you that want to attend that. Our next regular meeting will be Tuesday, June 27th at 9 a.m. And from 2 to 4 that afternoon is a Women, Land and Legacy event in Monticello for Don. I think has to do with the watershed management. But that's optional. I think it's a public event anyway. As for business today, I have 2 fireworks permits that I'm looking for approval on. The first one is for Stephanie Avenarius. At 15647 Highway 52 for July the 1st. The motion to approve that. He has had a permit for it.
I'm sorry, did you second that? Huh? I have a motion and a second to approve the fireworks permit as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.
I also have an application from Betty Ann Miller. At 3249 Highway 62 for the 4th of July. It's on the east end of town here.
It's in the county though, right?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the fireworks permit for Betty Ann Miller as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.
Also, please note that any fireworks permits, we do request them as early as possible. So if you're planning fireworks for the 4th of July, we need to get your application into us. And if we don't get any rain between now and your fireworks date, I wouldn't guarantee we won't have a burn ban in place even by this weekend. So.
Gotta be getting pretty.
That's correct.
So
So
we
yeah,
need
be
to
aware,
check.
you know, anybody that may be watching or will watch, be aware, you know, it is very dry. We can't do anything about that. So be conscious of that, please, and respect the neighbors and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's for emergency personnel, knowledge of where and what's going on. And so we appreciate that they're applying for permits anyway.
Very much. The other thing we need to talk about, our regular meeting date would have been July 4th this year, and nobody really wants to have a meeting on that date. So we talked about this a few weeks ago and we had decided on July 3rd. However, something has come up and we really need to do it earlier. So what has been discussed is that we eliminate the July 3rd meeting and have what would have been at meeting on June 30th. At 10 a.m., including the public hearing that Lisa just got your approval for in June, Friday, June 30th will be your last meeting of the year.
And is there a reason from 9 to 10? I guess, was there a reason for that?
It's supposed to be at 10.
Yeah, it's at 10
It's at
o'clock.
10 o'clock. Sorry, I
Um,
misspoke that one.
There was something at 9 o'clock, because I think Shelley was even saying 9 when she was like 9:30 or 10, and so we just decided on 10. So,
That's fine.
It shouldn't be a very long meeting.
Just as a side note, I did send out notices yesterday to all of the people that I sent an RFP for the solar array and pushed that back a week. So I went to July 11th with potential awarding on July 18th. And then I also gave them, I extended the deadline to get the bid back to us by a week also. So
Okay.
they've got an extra week to bid.
Okay. Did you need action on that, changing the meeting date?
I think that would be fine. We just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
so moved.
Second.
Motion second to approve the meeting date till July 4th, regular meeting date to June 30th
10 a.m.
at 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
I think that's all I had for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll get a few minutes here. Is there any reports on commissions or?
The only ones we got with the Cook River Water Management Authority and Limestone Bluffs is right now we're reviewing the management agreement between Limestone Bluffs and the Cook River Water Management Authority, trying to tweak it. It's been several years since they looked at it. They're just trying to fine tune it and see if it needs work one way or the other. So each group is kind of working on that right now.
Yeah, no, actually, I've been fairly quiet with things are rather running fairly smoothly and not too many complaints. You know, I had some noxious weeds complaints the other day. We moved on them and acted
Weeds
on
are
them.
the only thing growing right now.
Well, the thistles are growing, I'm telling you.
Did have somebody at the rodeo, I did have somebody ask me, and they were like, is it true that the county says nobody can touch their right of way, the ditch in their right, along their property? And I'm like, actually, no, according to the ordinance.
You are,
You're
you're touching.
supposed to- You're absolutely supposed to be. And they were, okay.
I had our security meeting. It was highly. They weren't in favor of where the new window is being proposed to go because of the traffic in that area. So,
They want it back on the cinder block wall.
well, they were questioning, you're not gonna do anything with the door.
Why does it need to be bulletproof?
Right.
It is,
You know.
Well, we talked about the film on the door and I actually went down and discussed it with John and Jess about that and
and the
they're
film-
adamant about the bulletproof glass. I'll say that. And Crocker is recommending that also. I guess
Another
there's-
thing that kind of got brought up was could we make. Like you come into the door and then make a wall and put like. The bulletproof glass there type of deal, so that they're.
Like at the
inside.
sheriff's department.
Yeah, so that they're inside,
that's
Their
gonna
office
defeat the
area.
purpose of,
it's gonna make that conference room a little smaller,
yeah. That's it.
but. They also wondered about kind of the whole HIPAA or privacy. With people having to do transactions there in the hallway. That when people are standing. They're waiting to go to court and that they're hearing all about. Other people's legal issues.
Then the other people shouldn't discuss them in the hallway. I mean,
It's just what got brought up, I'm just relaying kind of their concerns of what got brought up there. So that was at 7th Judicial. We just kind of wrap things up before the. They go to the Des Moines. Kind of overseeing them all. Approve the. Director's. Evaluation and salary and stuff like that. So, and then with them, once. After July 1st, we can only meet 4 times a year, so that'll be a change in their schedule, our schedule for that. Things are coming along well with Together We Build. They are doing a fundraiser. That they're gonna be selling appliances, raffle chances at. Again, they got 3 different setups. One is a whole kitchen. So stove, refrigerator, dishwasher, microwave package. The second is just a stove and microwave range hood type package. And the third chance is a washer dryer. Some will be around, so if anybody's wanting to do raffle tickets. Together We Build.
With support, yeah. I mean, they're working
And
very
they're-
hard at it. I see, and we got
They're coming a long ways on.
business
they're building.
going on. Yeah, they were doing really well the way it looks to me on that building. I do want to go back to your security meeting if I could, just for a second. Was maintenance and the county attorney's office represented at the meeting?
No.
Okay. I think there needs to be input if we're gonna have a discussion, then we need to have a work session with maintenance. County attorney's office, what if it's security,
when you're talking the amount of money it was to put that window in the cinder block wall. Yeah, I agree, there needs to be, cause you almost get the point you argue that room that they wanna move Jess into. Isn't that much smaller than the room she's in now. Maybe just reorganizing and putting the conference room in there. Where maybe there isn't so much visibility from the glass door. I know putting a film on it, all that stuff, but maybe then I don't know, we gotta come up with a compromise.
I think the biggest thing is the security part of it. It's just they can walk into her door. I mean, if I get the part that the contentiousness, whatever it may be, if it's whatever the court rulings will be or attorneys confidentiality and such. I don't like where she sits either when you walk in the door and she's right there. I guess I like the idea of a serving window. More like the sheriff's office. Again, how do you do one and not the other? Or, I mean, there's much more space to consider in the rest of these offices. Yeah, so I think it's more conversation to be had.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll just move along then, and we're joined by Jack Willie and Lynn Bopes, our Jackson County Coordinator for Disability Services. Good morning.
Good
morning.
And congratulations, Jack. I see the governor sending you letters.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Thank you.
So you get reappointed?
And I got it, last night I was at Together We Build, and I was looking up something that was a letter from the governor.
Yeah, it's come late. I didn't look what time it come, but I seen that.
Yeah, good. Well, Jack and I are here and Nin was in attendance also yesterday via Zoom to the Mental Health Regions Governing Board meeting for the month of June. And just a couple of the highlights. At this time of the year, of course, we always take a look at where is that fund balance, especially when it needs to be compared to what Iowa code says it needs to be at 20% by June 30th of 2023. Looks like the projection from the region's fiscal agent, David Farman, puts it about 43%. You know, we are not certainly the only region in this situation. In fact, there was quite an article some of you might have seen in the TH about the 9-county region to the north and west of us a little bit. They likewise are well over that 20% benchmark. There are other regions. There are still 14 regions in the state, and there are other regions as well. David was saying yesterday that he thinks this will likely impact our payments that the state would send to the region in January of 24 and then potentially in April of 24. It depends on how much the payment is compared to what our overage is. As far as the funding the region will receive for next year from the state, the current levy is $38 per person, and our population is just a hair over 300,000. I can't tell you the exact figure that they were using, but I can look that up if you want. In fiscal year 24, it goes up to $40 per capita. So $40 times the population is what the total is that our 5-county region will receive from the state.
So it's population of the region.
Yes, they use the
Yeah.
population of the region and multiply it by what their
Sure,
unidentified levy is.
sure.
And I know, Lori had said earlier that, she didn't think we'd have a problem because it was 325,000 that if you add a population of 3, you wouldn't have to merge with anybody else. And so we're right at that 325,000 population.
There is, you know, a lot of rumblings about what will the regions look like within the next 5 years.
You know, Lynn, to me, as long as I've been here, I think there's been rumblings.
There have been
You know,
rumblings.
it's been so,
much.
it's been so confusing and try to figure it out and to go to the legislatures year after year after year and try to explain. And it just seems like, I don't know.
It's just like with, you know, they want to try uniform regions and have, you know, just one set rule.
Yeah, but that don't fit for it.
And, you know, it's like, Ken would agree too with ECI. You know, Peggy has resigned and is taking a different job. So we're in the process of maybe hiring a new director. But they keep saying that they may be adding more counties to our ECI region. So do you go ahead and hire a new person, not knowing whether you're gonna be in with Dubuque and Scott counties? And so it's a mess what they're trying to do to us.
I don't think things were planned out very well before we.
Well, you know, you
rolled
can't
out.
put that on somebody when you hire somebody, they don't know what they're into either. Well,
That's right.
I mean, how can they project, you know? All of a sudden, I got 3 more counties or I gotta take care of, it's a lot more.
Just like with our isols, it used to be just Clinton and Jackson, and now they added Cedar County to it. And so our person that does that service has to go to Cedar County too, so that cuts the services that we're getting. And you just have to you
So
kind of
what's
beat your head
the-
against the
As
wall.
far as the 43% balance, Glenn, does that go back then at the end of, when is the end of the time frame for that? That's not fiscal year though, right?
It is fiscal year, it's
Yeah.
June 30th. Yeah, so David's projection, my guess is you're gonna be pretty near what the actual will turn out to be because we're so close to that. I mean, we only have, what, 2-3 weeks left. and then-
So does that go back to the state or where's it go?
It goes into an incentive, what are they calling it now? An incentive fund? It
Yes.
goes into a fund at the state level. And that fund is available then to regions if they're in the opposite situation and they don't have enough money to meet their expenses to make sure they're
They can,
funding for all the core
they
services.
can apply for some of this funding.
So we
Yes.
could be paying for services in western Iowa from that fund that we contributed to because of our overage. And we run a tight budget and we run a, I mean, we just didn't spend money to spend it. you know.
Well, I mean,
Some of it
We
is you gotta
submit the
have,
services
you
that,
gotta-
I had people to offer the services.
Right, and that is still
That's,
the issue.
that's the biggest problem, and that's why we have the overages, because we've approved services to be provided, but they can't get the staff to
get the staff
provide
to
them.
do it.
and I don't think that's gonna change anytime
Not-
soon. So
not
then we
even-
have to change our thought process at the state level. I don't.
But they keep adding more core services.
Yeah.
This year they did it again.
You gotta have this and you gotta have this, but there ain't anybody to run the programs.
And to that sense that our money is being used to fund people in another part of the state. Now that all the money it is all state dollars, and so I think the state's gonna push back on that conversation when that comes up, because they're gonna say, this isn't your money. It was money for us to use, but it's not money that we generated from our local property tax dollars. It's money that came from the state. Now, obviously, it came from us somehow, if it's at the state level and available to give to the mental health
Yeah, I
regions.
think with the workforce development, with those districts, you're seeing the opposite thing where Mississippi Valley Workforce Development is getting a lion's share of the funding, because we have a lion's share of the unemployment in the different factories and stuff. Western Iowa, they've actually quit they're like, we're fed up, we're done, because they're not getting enough to man hardly anybody, and so they're trying to reevaluate everything, so
Mhm.
it's just.
Well, and speaking of reevaluation, I have a little packet of 3 documents that Lori handed out, and I have one for you too, Nan, because you didn't send these out with the Zoom notice, and so one of the things in this packet is Iowa has contracted with a vendor to look at the health and human services system in the state of Iowa. And as a part of this, they list 18 different entities within the state that they want looked at, and how are the services being provided by, funded by, is there a way to streamline some of this? So for example, it does include ECIs, it includes mental health regions, local government mental health, as well as WIC and maternal health. I mean, there's 18 region or 18 entities listed here.
And part of those entities are part of what ECIA contracts for. The I Smiles.
Yeah,
the-
Smiles.
You know, several of them are provided by ECI, or they fund some of those. WIC is another one they work with.
WIC and then Aging and Disability Resource Centers.
Medicaid in there.
No, not that I see. And then in addition to this, I don't have a flyer for this, Lori didn't hand anything out, but on June 9, the last June 9th, I think it was. The state announced that they are issuing an RFP, a request for proposal, to get somebody to come in and look at the crisis systems. The mental health, behavioral health crisis systems across the state of Iowa. One of the frustrations with that is that it's all a part of a core service of the mental health regions. And each region has implemented to a large extent what's needed. But the RFP is issued by Department of Health and Human Services, and they oversee the regions, and all the CEOs from the regions were in a meeting with HHS on that Thursday and Friday, and there was never a word mentioned to the CEOs that this RFP was going to be issued. So there's a frustration there with some transparency between, you know, what is the state, what is HHS really looking at in the big picture, and how is that being communicated to those of us that are boots on the ground at this point in time? So that's one of the things in the packet. Another thing in the packet is the state's initiative effort to be more involved with the federal level with Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, known as SAMHSA, in regards to a kind of an organization called a Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic, a CCBHC, to throw more initials at everybody. These CCBHCs, Iowa has a grant in one of 15 states for a year to work on planning on developing a system to certify this kind of agency within the state of Iowa. There's 9 core services that they have to make available. They have to actually provide at least 51% of the
Right.
services themselves, but for some of the services, they can contract out and collaborate with other existing agencies. So Hillcrest actually had a grant from the SAMHSA federal organization a couple of years ago. They had it for 2 years and they did not get it renewed. But Vera French and Robert Young Center within our mental health region are both identified as CCBHCs for this 1 year of planning. After this year, in March of 2024, the federal government's going to make available to 10 states, 10 of these 15, to do a development grant, which is really going to provide more federal money to enhance the whole delivery of CCBHC. So help them more with funding sustainability for 4 years. At the end of that 4 years, it's my understanding, those agencies have to have figured out how they can sustain this with Medicaid dollars, whoever their funding base is that pays for the services they provide. So they have to do things like provide behavioral health, mental health services, substance abuse services, some case management, some primary care services. There's overlap between these CCBHCs that the federal government is saying, let's look at how we can fund in Iowa, with what Iowa currently has established in Iowa Administrative Code Chapter 24, community mental health centers, which is what Hillcrest is, Bridgeview and Clinton, Vera French in Davenport. And then there's another entity that hits a very similar population that is supposed to welcome anyone through their doors, regardless of their ability to pay. And these are called federally qualified community health clinics. There's one of those, a small version of that in Clinton. Davenport has a large CHC is what they're called for short. So there's these 3 entities out there with a fair amount of overlap, all targeting pretty much available to everybody, regardless of your ability to pay type premise. I don't know where that's all gonna go. So that's a little bit confusing as well. The third document that you'll get is just a review of House File 471, which is the most recent legislation that was passed and signed by the governor that affects regions. A couple of examples of things that are affected is the makeup of the governing board. Any governing board of a mental health region cannot have more than 49% of its members be representatives of county boards of supervisors. We will be okay because the membership on this board is very prescriptive. And so we will have a board of 12 members starting July 1st, although we don't have all 12 identified. We have to bring in someone from law enforcement, someone from the court system. We have to bring in I believe it's maybe a physician. Pardon?
Isn't there a parent of a child?
Yeah, a parent of a
receiving-
child receiving services, a parent or an active relative or an adult receiving services. So in our case, there's about 7 roles that are very prescriptive in Iowa code, and then we'll have the 5 representatives, 1 from each county. So we will never hit that threshold of having more than 49% of elected officials, so we'll be okay. But that's one of and all members of the governing board as of July 1 will be voting members. Currently, we have a couple of members that are not. So for example, the provider of services to the adult mental health system is not a voting member. They're just ex officio there. That's one of the changes.
And then a lot of the regions, there are more supervisors, and so they're going to have to decide how they select who will represent who. And they might have term limits
Yeah.
and change seats every couple of years, so. And they always throw wrenches at us.
Yes, they do. So some of these things will need to be changed in our 2080 agreement that we have with the region. Lori is working on that, and I believe the process she's going to use is it'll be reviewed and approved by the governing board, and then it'll come back to each individual county board of supervisor for review and for your approval and signature on it. So we have to send in an amended 2080. It's supposed to be done by August 1st, but Lori indicated yesterday that HHS will, if we can explain the process we're using to get that accomplished, they will give an extension beyond that August 1st. Also August 1st or September 30th, we have to have updated our policies and procedure manual and our annual service and budget plan that we had already gotten approved by HHS for FY 24, because some of these things will need to be added there. The one thing that needs to be added, for example, to our annual service and budget plan, which is our plan that's required by the state to say, what are we going to do in next fiscal year, is required core service that Jack was referring to, outpatient community competency restoration. So this is for an individual who has been deemed incompetent to stand trial for a criminal charge, but meets eligibility criteria to be released on pretrial release and return to the community. And the goal then is to have services provided to an individual in that situation so that their competency can be restored. So for example, if it's someone with mental health concerns and they're not compliant with their medication and they're not always thinking real clearly, but if they accept mental health treatment, medication, therapy, whatever that combination might be, their mental health may improve to the level where they would be deemed competent to stand trial, because they would be able to have a clear understanding of the charges and right from wrong and things like that. This is a method that is used in some other states, just not by coincidence, but many things that are being changed within HHS are things that you would notice if you studied the state of Texas, from what I understand. And Texas is where our HHS director came from, Kelly Garcia. So she is bringing with her some of the ideas from Texas, and also I think
Some of the people.
yeah, some people as well. That's one of the additional core services that we have to address. And then another one is just the conflict of interest policy on the board members. So I made copies for all of you, and Lisa, you too, just so you have it, because you keep the minutes. Just to give you guys an idea of, how uncertain things are and how everything is being reviewed and scrutinized and analyzed and whatever other word you might want to use for it to determine the best way to move forward. That was quite a bit of the conversation yesterday.
I mean, even like these services where who determines the competency, who says yeah or yay or nay, and I would go along to say, if you're in treatment for an extended period of time, you may be competent, or you may change, but I don't know what's gonna happen very quickly. And
There's really no timeline attached to it.
No.
I mean, it's a process. It is something that,
But then again, you're putting somebody back on the street that, I don't know what kind of crimes we're talking about either, or
well,
if there's a
and so,
misdemeanor, or you know what I mean, what the.
yeah, so I think that's where, when you read that, you'll see it talks a little bit about, the person has to meet criteria to be determined to be able to be released on free trial. What that criteria is, I don't know. I really don't know much more about it than what I've already said.
And we don't have
Maybe
anybody available to critique it and to evaluate it, I should say.
Yeah,
Like I said, it's a new core service, and we don't have people that can do the evaluations and do the treatments and do the.
well, we're not even really sure what it all entails. There are
Yeah.
any rules
We
written.
haven't seen the rules yet.
Yeah.
So that's the next step in the process.
Well,
That's just details. We'll just create a program.
Figure it out
Details that are
later.
significant, we'll just
Yeah.
figure it out later.
I truly appreciate both of your patience with this, it's gotta be stressful.
One of the
Mind
things we
boggling.
did talk about yesterday, which we can be very proud of in Jackson County, that all of our deputies
Yes, I was in
and,
there.
and the staff And the jailers are all certified now, which is wonderful. They've all attended the classes that they need to attend to be able to be a certified officer.
Well, in specific, I think I mentioned before that the region has funded the Crisis Intervention Training
Right.
Program, the CIT program, so it's a 40-hour, 1-week course. Mandatory attendance at least 90% of the hours that are offered. And when I talked to Jim Crocker last week, he was sharing that, yes, as Jack mentioned, 100% of the officers and about 60% of the correctional officers and both of the civil and criminal secretary have successfully completed the course. That's not just an easy thing to do, because it does pull people out of their roles for a full week, on Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. In the case, we held one here at the fire station in September. The other two, one was in Clinton and one was in Muscatine. So there was some travel time and coverage back home on the roads during that work week. So, we can be very proud of law enforcement. And then there were other law enforcement staff from, I believe, maybe Preston and then Bellevue and Macokota that also attended. So it's not even just the sheriff's department.
Right.
Our law enforcement throughout the county are really embracing the availability of that training. This is a training curriculum that now is included, from what I understand, as a part of the law enforcement academy when they go through that as new officers. So it's a training that all new officers are getting as they come on new to that position. The other thing that law enforcement in Jackson County is embracing, and again, not just the county, but the municipalities as well, is the region's crisis system includes what they call a co-responder. It's a model that you're starting to hear more about. Typically, obviously, for obvious reasons, it started in more urban areas, but it makes a person who has a background in dealing with mental health crises available and riding along with law enforcement. And when they get a call that involves someone who's having some mental health difficulties, that person is there to intervene. And oftentimes what they're finding is that with that intervention, they can resolve that issue without typically maybe an arrest or maybe even needing to go to the hospital to be evaluated further for a hospitalization. And the hope is that in a lot of cases, law enforcement can maybe even leave that situation once it's been determined that it's a safe situation and this other person just continues to address the mental health concerns. So they just in the last 2 to 3 weeks have met the person that's going to be covering Jackson County and available. It's not full-time to our county at this point in time, but the mere fact that the person is available and will be here for, I'm thinking maybe about 12 hours a week. And law enforcement is working with the crisis lead staff to determine how exactly they will be utilized. When will they be here? How will they be accessed? That kind of thing. But again, it's just a progressive thing that we see our law enforcement doing throughout the county.
It's pretty obvious if you read the paper daily.
And they did say that by July, all 5 counties will have
Yes,
somebody working with the county.
at least on a part-time basis.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
On like a de-escalation type.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
it can be that, and then it also can be figuring out.
Getting them in hands of the right services.
Yes,
or-
exactly. So I believe just even this week, there was a question maybe posed by ambulance staff in a certain scenario of should we call Foundation 2 and get that mobile crisis team? Because that's still available to us to physically come out here and do that de-escalation and kind of coordination. Or is this co-responder person available? Because could that person have gone to the scene of that situation? So there's a lot of learning and
Sure.
tweaking to get it, how it meets our needs, but there's a lot of interest and cooperation, so that's where it all started.
Good, I appreciate that, our law enforcement is getting involved and stay involved and,
Mhm.
It's great.
yeah.
So that's all that I have. I don't know if Nan or Jack, you guys have something that I missed?
No, I think
Well,
we covered it pretty good,
The only
actually.
thing I would say is Todd Novak, who has the center in DeWitt, that is now closed and it's moved to Clinton.
So he runs the peer support program and they have a drop-in center that had been in DeWitt and he found a location in Clinton. But they still have the respite house
Yes,
in
they,
DeWitt.
yes, they still have
Five
that.
beds. So. Okay.
Well, we
that's it for
appreciate your
now.
report. Again, I appreciate your patience in working through some of them situations and spending the time to be involved.
That makes sense.
Well, trying. Not always sure that it's making sense when I say it, but
Making sense, like shifting sand.
yeah, that's exactly the way that I may steal that. Actually, that terminology.
And we never know what tomorrow will bring.
No, we don't. So thanks.
Well, thank you.
We'll be back in a month.
Okay. I think that's the end of our agenda items. Anything else before the board this morning? Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.